Bill Lieber, Westler Engineering, 6219 South East Street, Indianapolis. And I will share my screen, and I do have something for you to look at. All right. So yeah, my name is Bill Lieber. I'm the project manager. Also, Mary Atkins and Lori Latham are in your presence. They're in the room. So if you'd like to, if you haven't already talked with them, if you want to speak with them later, they're on hand. I just wanted to give an update on where we are with the project, what's been complete, and what is yet to come. I want to go over a little bit.
Excuse me, Bill, give us some idea of where you are in the region as it pertains to showing us another river with trees next to it.
This is Beaver Dam Ditch, and I believe this would be kind of just west of Crown Point, kind of where it's, you know, a little bit less developed. I don't remember exactly where this is. We've got another.
So this is for Beaver Dam Ditch is another tributary that helps St. John, all of the Crown Point, and feeds everything on the west side of I-65 and goes under I-65. All of that water goes under I-65 and eventually makes it to Houghton.
Correct. So Beaver Dam Ditch meets up with Niles Ditch, and then it turns into Deep River. So where everything upstream, it's really important because it's kind of the furthest upstream of the Little Calumet watershed. So everything that happens up here has an effect all the way downstream. So those are some of the things that we'll be looking at and talking about in our final report. How you know, if there are improvements that could be made to you know, reduce flooding, reduce erosion, improve water quality. And so I'll go into that just a little bit, but lately, or most recently, we've been doing a field investigation. Coming up, we will have deliverables, a GIS interactive map, and then the model that Dan was talking about, which will be used in order to analyze future projects, both ones that we kind of know are on the horizon, and then, you know, as people bring applications or for funding to you. So our field investigations have included structure inspections, and then the channel itself, you know, when we're looking at the channel, we're really looking for blockages, erosion, you know, issues with bank stabilization. And actually, it's like to say we really weren't finding many blockages. I know the county's been out there with some projects, and they've been doing some clearing. I think they've been doing a good job. Culverts are clear. You know, there's not a lot of debris around bridge piers, things like that. We did find a few instances of channel erosion, and we'll document those. But generally speaking, you know, things are in pretty good shape. There's good vegetation. But we're also looking for opportunities. You know, where might there be storage available in the floodplain, detention, and then also things that could promote biodiversity and increase water quality. Just a few pictures, things that we're looking at. Again, conditions of culverts. A little bit hard to tell here, but what you're seeing is actually the top of a concrete pipe that's going into the ditch. And there is an opening here. The pipe joints that have separated. I believe this was near Main Street, where we crossed Main Street. Bridge. This isn't really an issue as far as you know, the hydraulics of the channel or flooding, anything like that. But you know, as far as any liability or things like that, you know, we've got a utility here that is a broken conduit. So just anything out of the ordinary, trying to take note of. Here is, like I mentioned, some channel erosion, some where we might need to do some bank stabilization in the future. This is kind of right next to a fitness center and I think a tattoo parlor. And I think this is also near Main Street, Crown Point. So something to keep an eye on, so this doesn't continue to
Everything's great. You're showing me crumbling bridges, cracked roads, and everything's falling apart. So I get it.
Okay.
You're flagging all this stuff.
We are, yeah.
Okay.
So something like this, it's not necessarily the road, that could be indicating, the culvert beneath settling or even a sinkhole or something. Some other interesting things. This is near the treatment plant for Crown Point, and this is actually detention adjacent to the Beaver Dam ditch. But you notice it doesn't look like it gets very, very wet, and there's actually storm inlets in the middle of the detention. I don't know if that was the original design or not, but we're going to look at some of these things. And I'll come back to this just in a moment. Here's another detention area, just actually about a quarter mile down the road. Now this one, it does hold some water and things, but this could be an opportunity, and I'll get to that in a moment. The other item that we're doing, all of our findings, kind of our deliverable, like Dan's just talking about getting things digitized. Well, instead of just giving you a paper report, we will have a interactive map that will have all of our results, and I'm already on here, and it'll also be able to store photos, things like that. In the future, if Crown Point comes and says, hey, we've got a project here we want funding for, we could add that to the map so everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. But what this is showing, these lines in blue are the waterways. The red are different drainage areas that we're using to build the model. That's the other thing that's good about this map. It's helping us determine the hydraulics. These yellow lines are kind of flow paths. So you might have, a drop of rainfall could fall down here, south of 125th Avenue, near Clark Street. And this is kind of the path it would take where, it reaches Beaver Dam ditch all the way up at White Hawk Country Club. So it's kind of interesting how these things happen. One more thing I want to show you on here, we have land use. So again, here we are at the country club. I can turn on land use, and you can see the coloring where we have the gray is impervious area. The brown is trees and more vegetated. The darker green would be like your lawns, or I guess the rough for the golf course, and the light green is fairways and other more smooth surfaces. And we use this data to calculate runoff coefficients, so we can know how much runoff is generated and entering into the ditch. So in this case, the brown areas generate less runoff. Obviously the gray are the most, but we can see it's as detailed as, hey, we've got more runoff coming from the fairway, than from the trees next door. So we'll be updating that again. Like I said, eventually we'll be able to actually say what flows are in the channel and things like that.
Bill, I got a question. Since you took a break, just on the digitization piece,
Yep.
What's the technology on that? Like, how will we be able to access the information going forward? Is that something we have to come back to Wessler for in the future?
We can make that, that's online on Esri ArcGIS Online. And you'll have the choice if we can host it and have it available to you, or if you want to have your own system and keep it keep it forever, you can get your own account, and it's like $200 a year. It's very affordable, and you could use that. Then it could be linked through your web page, and you could use it for the public to show them what's going on and things like that.
Thank
you. Yep. We are still working on the model. We're currently doing some error correction and calibration. Again, modifying some of this information to match up with historical flows and depths that we get from the DNR and the Army Corps. So we do have a couple spots that we need to go out and revise some of our physical data with some new survey data. We had been using LiDAR, where basically the entire state of Indiana has a surface that the state is, has digitized, and we've got contours, but in some places it's just not that accurate. And so to really get that model calibrated, we're going to have to get get a little bit of survey, revise and calibrate the hydrology to make sure the flows are correct, and include some of the detention effects. That'll be done fairly soon. We're hoping in the next 30 days, and then we'll be ready. The model will be there, ready to use. So as you get project requests, we'll be able to analyze them. And then also we want to be able to look at some of the opportunities for improvement. As I was mentioning before, we've got a lot of these areas, especially when you're in Crown Point, in the developed area, kind of between Main Street and Broadway. There are a number of these kind of detention areas right next to the channel, and it makes sense in terms of some of these subdivision. I think down here is maybe from the 90s. There were standards in place. They had to put in detention, and they did so. They followed the standards, but you wonder if so they had detention and released it slowly into the channel, but you wonder if sometimes the standards don't take into effect where you are in the watershed or where you are next to your receiving stream. In other words, sometimes for these areas that are right next to the channel, it might have been better to not have detention or to do the detention differently. This is kind of a cross section of that same area that I had the picture of earlier. And you can see here's Beaver Dam Ditch. And then, you've got kind of a levee, a berm that was put in. Some of it is when the ditch was created, but then also some of it.
Just you're flagging those for us, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But then some of this berm was built in order to install this detention. This low spot here is basically the detention for the development that's off on the side, and we've kind of got that on either side. And that's fine. There's probably a pipe that comes through here and slowly goes into the ditch. But what we're going to analyze is what would have happened if maybe there was no berm here, right? What if they would have put the berm just over on this side to protect the homes, but they would have instead had a larger floodplain. So then those smaller events, get into the channel right away. But as the channel stage comes up, it would actually have storage.
Hold on a second, Bill. Dan, I mean, we're not looking to do the analysis of those types of scenarios now as a part of the study. I mean, that's gonna have to go through the municipality and all of those, different folks to be able to get to it. They should flag it as new development comes in, but shouldn't be spending time to hurry up and get this done so we can put it into the game, waiting for these types of analysis, because those are gonna start blurring the line.
But you're gonna get. That is the second part, but a part of it is to find opportunities like this as to get it. Now, Crown Point, I don't foresee in the near future for them to issue us another project. They're pretty content with Sourman Woods right now. So this isn't slowing it down. It's not like we need it, but it's good to have the opportunity, because I think the next phase of this, and we've talked about this before, is finding detention ponds that were put into the system because you're like, but you get it. Hey, put a big ditch in the ground, but they don't really check to see if they're actually functioning the way that they are.
Correct. So if we're IDing them and having them, that's great. And if there's issues like this, hey, it's right next to the ditch, what the heck, then move on. And then, if they come back, because I'm not so sure it's us or municipality.
Or Lake County drainage.
Correct. Thank you. Sorry, Bill.
No, that's good commentary. I appreciate it. And it's understood. But we have these areas that basically this is already done. And now with the model, we can take a little bit of time and look at, okay, what's happening now in this configuration and what might it have looked like if they did it differently. And then with that being said, we could make recommendations for the areas that are not yet developed. So I'm going to go back here, because these blue lines are your floodplain. And where these ponds are basically in this area here, where you can see the floodplain is really narrow. And what that means, I mean, on one hand, you say, hey, that's great. Floodplain's narrow. These people aren't paying flood insurance. But in terms of the health of the channel and the watershed, it means it's more channelized, and we've got the same flow going through a smaller area. So the velocities are higher and you're getting more of that erosive force. And that's why actually the picture that I showed earlier with the erosion.
Right. We don't want to create the hard ditch scenario in 50 years like what they did to us.
So, when we've got these areas here, near, St. John and then they come and say, hey, we want to build something. There might be an opportunity to say, okay, well, hey, maybe let's give a variance or say, let's not do detention the way we always do it. Instead, let's think about the watershed and have a bigger buffer. And let's not, allow all this development that's right on the ditch. There's supposed to be a 75-foot easement, right? Let's make sure that they preserve that easement, or maybe more. Say, hey, you can have 2 more lots, and not build a pond, but we need a much bigger buffer when you get to the ditch.
So Bill, to the chairman's point, is that going to be kind of the deliverables? Those are some great points right there at the end about, ideas, like especially the last picture, let's not channelize the watershed because that one area is skinnier than the rest, or just like some principles for us to think about going forward, or some options for some of these specific areas. Is that really kind of what the deliverables are? I've forgotten since we started the project. I apologize.
It is that, and then it is the model itself. So you'll have that as a tool. So if Crown Point comes with a project or St. John comes with a project, it's not just this, we think this or this would be good. We can actually run it in the model and show some results. And also, or if you have competing proposals, different projects, it can help you decide which one is a bigger priority to fund.
Fantastic. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. That was my.
That was my last slide.
Oh, okay. Good segue.
Great, thank you. So any questions with regards to what's going on? My first question is, when are you going to be done?
I anticipate us being done in 30 to 45 days.
Thank you.
And I have a question. How many total acres are we looking at here as this watershed?
Oh, I should know that, but I don't have that in front of me. It's, no way.
And then,
I don't remember.
is the city gonna, and in St. John and the county gonna have access to this information and we'll be able to track as they continue to have bulldozers push over cornfields?
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else? Outstanding. Thank you very much.